This video is brought to you by Recon True Wireless Earbuds. Stick around to learn more about them and also a special offer they're making available through my channel. Gamers! God damn, it is hot, right? I wouldn't know, to be honest. I'm in Sydney, where it's currently cold as a witch's tit and it hasn't stopped raining in like 6 months. Still, I hear those of you up north are struggling with an unprecedented heat wave. Things have gotten so bad that Valve has had to issue an official warning to Steam Deck users that they shouldn't be using their Steam Deck in temperatures above 35 degrees Celsius. I don't know why these guys just don't strap an ice pack to the back of their handheld. That's what we do here in Australia, where it's 35 degrees every fucking day in summer. Except when it's flooding, then it's like 33. Or when there's bushfires, it's like 39. Or when we have one of those mouse plagues. You know what? You don't want to know about that. Here in video game land, we're dealing with our own plague, NFTs. And this week is definitely one of the biggest editions of no fucking thanks I've ever had the pleasure or displeasure of putting together for you. Speaking of NFTs, blockchain developer Ubisoft have had a pretty rough week. And by rough, I mean they've been thoroughly reamed on a scale I've rarely seen before. A lot to talk about this week, so let's get to it. Here comes the news. Let's start with the biggest news of the week. We just got our first details about GTA 6, and while they aren't confirmed, they do come from Jason Schreier of Bloomberg, who claims to have spoken to more than 20 current and former Rockstar employees, so there's a good chance he's right. GTA 6 is the most anticipated video game, full stop. And it looks to be changing up the formula, both in terms of the game itself and the way the game is being made. Schreier reports that GTA 6's development is occurring during a cultural reckoning within Rockstar, who have long had a reliance on crunch to get things done, as well as a very frat boy culture that's left a number of employees feeling marginalized or worse. Apparently Rockstar are coming out the other side of that stuff now, and staff report that a number of management decisions have been taken to reduce crunch, for example, reducing the number of locations in-game at launch. There have also been a number of toxic managers removed from the company. Finally, Rockstar is also sought to be more culturally sensitive, an approach that has had an impact both on staff, but also on GTA 6's narrative, which apparently will be making fewer jokes that, quote, punch down, end quote, at marginalized groups. Schreier's reports did provide some really interesting insights into how this game is shaping up. First up, it's going to have a female protagonist, a Latina woman who is one half of a Bonnie and Clyde-inspired duo. Everyone says Bonnie and Clyde, but I'm guessing it's going to be closer to Pumpkin and Honey Bunny personally. This is the first time the franchise has had a female protagonist since GTA 1 way back in the day, so that's a pretty big deal. The game is apparently going to be set in a fictionalized Miami and the surrounding areas, setting up for a return to Vice City. This is just the start of it though, as one of the main pitches of GTA 6 is that the game is going to be adding new missions and new cities over time. There have been rumblings that the game was going to launch sometime next year, but Schreier's reports indicate that is unlikely, with his sources highlighting a number of production and personnel issues. Given all that, sources are hinting that the title is at least 2 years away, but no firm date has been set internally. Let's not forget that Rockstar are rumored to have cancelled remasters for GTA 4 and Red Dead 1, as well as a Red Dead 2 next-gen port, so they can get all hands on deck for GTA 6. This game is the sequel to one of the most successful video games in video game history, so the bar is very high indeed. Let's hope they deliver, because if the previous release timeline is anything to go by, this is going to be the only GTA game we get for the next 15 years or something. Alright, here comes some good news. We're getting a Black Panther video game. Probably. This news comes from industry faucet Jeff Grubb, who this week got everyone into a tiz when he teased the existence of a Black Panther game just a short time after the Black Panther Wakanda Forever movie trailer dropped. The shrewd operator he is, he got us all to tune in for his Game Mess morning podcast where he pointed up the details. The game is currently titled Project Raina, which is an internal working title of course, and it's being led by a newly formed studio headed up by Kevin Stevens, who was formerly head of Monolith Productions, the makers of stuff like Fear and Shadows of Mordor. The game is being published by EA. Encouragingly though, this is meant to be a single-player experience. Not exactly EA's go-to, but they have found huge success with recent offerings like Jedi Fallen Order and Star Wars Squadrons, so maybe EA is evolving? Maybe, probably not, but we can hope. Grubb says it'll be an open-world action game where you play as a newly crowned Black Panther looking to establish himself after the passing of the previous Panther, an apt storyline both canonically and in light of the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman. Given the nature of this IP and the focus of this story, this is one of the rare times where I think everyone will be pulling for EA. I wish them all the best with this project, and I hope they deliver something cool. Speaking of superheroes, we got a new trailer for the PC port of Spider-Man, the Insomniac masterpiece that went on to become a system-selling juggernaut for Sony. The Horizon Zero Dawn port wasn't the best outing, but Sony have really upped their game since then with a top-tier port of God of War earlier this year, and Spider-Man looks to be aiming for that same bar. The The PC port sports an unlocked frame rate, has NVIDIA DLSS, features ultra-wide support, and has ray tracing. You guys remember that Spider-Man Puddlegate drama from back in the day, by the way? Truly one of the most embarrassing chapters in console wars discourse ever. If you've forgotten, go look it up. It was deeply cringe. Anyway, I haven't played through this since launch, so I'm actually really pumped to jump back in and play through it again. It's hitting very soon, August 12th to be precise. The other trailer that Sony put up this week was for The Last of Us Part 1. Oh boy, talk about difficult discourse. I'm getting PTSD just thinking about it. You know that Ben Affleck meme? That's me anytime anyone brings up The Last of Us 2 review cycle. Anyway, we're back at it, arguing about The Last of Us again, because with a clearer picture emerging of what this remake will and won't include, a lot of people aren't convinced it's going to be worth that $70 price tag. So here's the deal, The Last of Us Part 1 does feature a number of significant improvements over both the base game and the PS4 remaster. In particular, you're talking about a complete graphical overhaul of environments and overall art direction, a complete overhaul of facial designs and animations, improved AI for both enemies and companions, 3D audio and DualSense support, and some truly industry-leading accessibility features, including audio descriptors while playing, which I believe is a first for a AAA game. As for the gameplay side of things, there really isn't much. The trailer talks about how enhanced environmental destruction and responsiveness add to immersion, but stuff like a dodge button or going prone or anything else isn't there. Now, to be clear, adding stuff like going prone or a dodge button both would have had pretty significant impacts on things like level design, enemy design, difficulty tuning, etc. These things are small bullet points, but they are not minor by any means. So I can understand why Naughty Dog aren't doing that, but at the same time, I can understand how people might expect Naughty Dog to do that when Sony are charging $70 for this and marketing it as a remake of the experience rather than a remaster. Sony's messaging around this promises a lot, and its price tag creates some pretty high expectations. But I personally wouldn't call this a remake, at least not from what I've seen so far, and I also think the price tag is a bit of an ask, given that the package doesn't even include the multiplayer mode that shipped with the original package, though to be fair, it does include that DLC. Personally, I feel like Sony could have sidestepped a lot of the angst on this one if they'd put it out at, say, $50, or better yet, if they'd offered people an upgrade path from the PS4 version of the game. That would have been doable, a nice compromise. Instead, we get this situation similar to Ghost of Tsushima's next-gen upgrade cost, or before that, Horizon Forbidden West not getting a free upgrade to next-gen as promised, something Sony had to eventually backtrack and apologize for. Sony's pricing strategy seems to create a lot of signal interference for the sake of a few dollars either way. Doesn't seem worth it to me, but Sony keep doing it, so I guess it must be worth it to them. Anyway, The Last of Us Remake hits PS5 September 2nd this year. I am planning to review it, and I am already terrified of what that comment section is going to look like. While we're talking console news, did you guys hear that Xbox have Discord now? This announcement comes last week from both Microsoft and Discord, announcing that the chat program is currently available to Xbox insiders and will soon roll out to everyone. This is gigantic. Discord is by far and away the #1 chat client used by gamers, except it's only available on PC and mobile. Now you can be on your Xbox playing Halo Infinite, sitting in a Discord with your buddies, talking about how much you hate Halo Infinite. Don't worry, Halo fans, we do the same thing in Destiny. No word yet on whether or not PlayStation consoles are going to be getting a Discord client, but it's a pretty safe bet given that Sony actually bought a minority stake in Discord sometime last year, and did flag that we can expect a Discord client to hit PlayStation consoles sometime this year, so watch this space. Alright, it's time for that Ubisoft block. It's a big one, so find yourself a comfy chair. You ready? Here we go. This week, Ubisoft basically imploded. It was earnings call week and it was time for Ubi to come clean with the market about how not well things were going at the beleaguered publisher. Headline announcements included the cancellation of 4 titles. 2 of them were unannounced, but the fact that they were included in this list means that they were proper investments rather than just ideas on a whiteboard, and both of those are now no more. One of the other cancellations was Splinter Cell VR, a joint project announced last year from Ubisoft and Oculus. No specific details for this other than it was a VR Splinter Cell game exclusive to the Oculus Quest. Is this a big blow? Not really, given that Ubi are still working on an actual Splinter Cell game, which is a remake of the original. But given how things have been tracking with that Prince of Persia remake, we shouldn't count our chickens on that one. The other cancellation was met with rapturous applause. Ghost Recon Frontline is dead. If you've successfully managed to block this one from your memory, then I applaud you, but the rest of us might remember this being revealed last year. It was a battle royale game, but with Ghost Recon, only it wasn't tactical like Tarkov or whatever, it was just a spammy action game, and apparently apparently you could build things in it like Fortnite. I mean, not quite like that, but I don't know. It was actually playable. There were beta tests for this going on, and even then, Ubisoft canned it. Can you imagine how bad that playtest feedback would have been for Ubisoft to nix this after all that development time and money? Anyway, rip Frontline, we hardly knew ye, and we're all very glad for that fact. This was just the appetizer for Ubisoft's bad week, because in addition to these cancellations, Ubisoft also announced it was pushing back 2 of its biggest titles for the year into 2023. The first is that Avatar game, which was meant to launch this year alongside the film, but Ubisoft are holding it back because they want to, quote, make it perfect, end quote. I'm just going to put this out there, that's a very ambitious word to use when justifying the delay. I wish you luck with that word during the review cycle. The other delay was for an unannounced title, which Jason Schreier of Bloomberg reports is actually Assassin's Creed Rift, the one rumored to be set in the Middle East and the last Assassin's Creed game we'll get before the franchise becomes a live service in the form of Assassin's Creed Infinity. Rift was initially meant to serve as a sales stopgap for a light 2022 holiday release schedule, and it's now no longer able to deliver on that objective, an outcome that is surely going to displease Ubisoft shareholders. As I've said many times before, I always support when developers choose to delay their games, because insert Miyamoto gif here. But this many cancellations and delays all at once, not to mention the quagmire that games like Beyond Good and Evil 2 and Prince of Persia Remake find themselves in, really speak to a failure of leadership, both in terms of creative vision and portfolio management. Case in point, Roll of Champions. This is a Ubisoft game in development for years, and that recently launched to thunderous silence. Absolutely no one knows this thing dropped, and I don't think anyone's playing it, even though it's free to play. There was zero marketing dollars behind this, and apparently the game has all sorts of technical issues to boot. Unsurprising then that Jeff Grubb is reporting that Ubi are planning to take this one to live on a farm with its buddies, Hyperscape and Ghost Recon Frontline. The report got so much traction that Ubisoft responded, saying that the game wasn't getting cancelled, but the statement also left room for the fact that Jeff could be right. I mean, the game not being cancelled now doesn't mean it's not going to get cancelled in future, and unless something really turns around for this one, and soon, it's difficult to imagine Roller Champions escaping that grim fate. Just when you thought things couldn't get any worse for Ubi, Kotaku are reporting that even Ubisoft developers don't have much faith in the upcoming Skull and Bones. Kotaku has a source who worked on the development team of the game, and here's what they are reporting, quote, according to one developer, there is little to the pirate ship game beyond what was already shown when it re-emerged in a showcase live stream earlier this month. Despite a bevy of resource gathering survival sim mechanics, they said each individual part of the game lacked depth, end quote. That is the least surprising quote of all time. I think we all knew this when we first saw the game years ago, and we were reminded of this when we saw that recent gameplay showcase. This is not looking to be the big holiday release that Ubisoft need to turn things around, no matter how good the game's catchphrase is. The one piece of good Ubisoft news this week wasn't even from Ubisoft themselves. It was actually, again, from Jeff Grubb, but this guy's out of control. He's reporting that a sequel to Immortal Phoenix Rising is in the works, and that this time it has a Polynesian theme. There actually is a piece of key art out there that has leaked, and it looks pretty cool, to be honest. I'm super down for a game that explores Polynesian mythology because I know nothing about that, and it would be a nice change versus the 15 Norse mythology games we get each year. No shade to Ragnarok, by the way. That one's different, it gets a pass. Anyway, I hope this is true because I really liked Immortal Phoenix Rising. I thought it was fantastic, and I'd love to see the series continue, especially in such a unique setting. It's been a rough news week, but I regret to inform you that I have saved the worst for last. Remember that KOTOR remake that was announced last year, and we were all really psyched about it because KOTOR rules? It's probably not happening anymore. The bombshell came from Jason Schreier himself, who led with the headline, quote, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic game paused amid studio shakeup, end quote. Okay, that's not a very encouraging headline, but it might not be so bad, right? I mean, what's a little pausing and shaking in the world of AAA game development? Probably nothing, right? Wrong. Reading the detail in this article is fucking grim reading. Turns out the developer Aspyr told their staff that the KOTOR remake project has been delayed indefinitely, and to underscore the point, the studio is currently looking for other development contracts. That means they're putting themselves out into the market to make a completely different game. And games do not take a short time to make. It's not like they can pick up a cheeky 6-week side hustle and then get back onto KOTOR. That's not how this world works. The way this all went down is really sad. Schreier reports that the team had been working on the game for some 3 years already and were presenting a vertical slice to Lucasfilm and Sony, which is kind of like a demo. The studio felt really good about it. They were pumped. Sadly, they did not get the response they were hoping for, and just a week after that presentation, the design director and art director were both fired, and soon after that, the team was informed that the project was indefinitely paused. Perhaps the most damning detail was that the project was initially targeting a 2022 release date, but that would have more likely been closer to 2025. It's very disappointing for fans of what is arguably the greatest Star Wars game ever made, but also for Aspyr staff. This is a studio who before this was focused on mobile ports and other types of support work. This was their step up to the big leagues, and I'm sure a bunch of people are feeling pretty shitty about how things have landed. Will the KOTOR remake ever come out? Maybe, but it's almost certainly not coming from Aspyr. Tri did say that Saber Interactive may take over development of the project, but it's far too early to say. Hopefully they find a way to keep this one alive, but it does feel like it could go either way. Very sad times. Alright, that was a bit of a bummer. What say we dunk on some crypto bros? That always cheers us up. This week in No Fucking Thanks, we start with the bad news. Companies are still trying to force feed us that NFT Kool-Aid no matter how much our gag reflex kicks in. Case in point, a new report by analyst group Drakestar Partners estimates that 50% of the total amount of money spent on video game startups in the past 12 months went to blockchain and NFT gaming projects. An estimated $2.2 billion has been handed to a bunch of studios who don't know how to make games and whose sole existence revolves around making things that gamers do not want. Could you imagine how many amazing games that $2.2 billion could have funded? Like 3 AAA games. I kid, but not by much. Seriously, I'm out here begging for a Soul Reaver remake for years, and it turns out that it would have been immediately funded if we could just find a way to cram some monkey JPEGs into it. God damn, that is so fucking sad. Anyway, it's not just the startups at the trough. Square Enix are continuing down this ruinous path despite the universal condemnation of anyone and everyone, including actual Final Fantasy characters. Because yes, Square Enix are selling Final Fantasy VII 25th anniversary NFTs. Final Fantasy VII is, of course, a game about a ruthless megacorp destroying the planet and a bunch of eco-freedom fighters trying to stop them, with Barrett waxing lyrical and often on the subject of both corporate greed and man-inflicted ecological destruction. Given the environmental footprint of NFTs, irony is alive and well in the hallowed halls of Square Enix. So, these are bleak headlines, but like Gandalf coming over that hill with the Rohirrim at his back, Steve arrives astride a mighty pig to lay down the ultimate bitch slap on those marauding NFT bros. This week, Mojang issued a statement that, in effect, banned any NFT platform from creating content that would in any way interface with Minecraft, be that on private servers or otherwise. This itself wasn't that interesting, but it's their statement that really makes this news. Speaking of these NFT projects, Mojang said, quote, "Each of these uses of NFTs and other blockchain technologies creates digital ownership based on scarcity and exclusion, which does not align with Minecraft values of creative inclusion and playing together. NFTs are not inclusive of all of our community and create a scenario of the haves and have-nots. The speculative pricing and investment mentality around NFTs takes the focus away from playing the game and encourages profiteering, which we think is inconsistent with the long-term joy and success of our players." End quote. My God, it has been 4 hours and it is still at full mast. Should I call a doctor? The statement is so powerful because Minecraft is one of the largest games on the planet, and they have just laid out a case to not only reject NFTs in Minecraft, but in all video games, because manufactured scarcity, exclusion, speculation, and profiteering are the only thing that NFTs are good for. That's it. So you can lift and drop these words onto any other game, and they hold just as true. It's a stunning rebuke, and one that's sure to reverberate across the industry. For what it's worth, it's already working as intended. NFT Worlds was the main entity running stuff around Minecraft, with an estimated revenue in excess of some $70 million. After this, the price of their token has completely collapsed, no surprises there, and in response, they said they're gonna make their own version of Minecraft. I would just like to take this opportunity to be the first to say, LMAO. So, what got announced or delayed this week? Well, Lucas Pope is one of the most highly regarded names in the indie dev scene, responsible for classics like Return of the Obra Dinn and Papers, Please, but he's never been one for huge fanfare, so this week when he just casually announced a mobile port for Papers, Please, he probably wasn't expecting it to get over 350,000 likes on Twitter. That's a lot of support for bureaucracy and red tape. The mobile port is hitting both iOS and Android on August 5th, no word on pre-registrations or price tag yet. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge which hit a little while back, and it definitely won people over big time. People are unironically talking about this one as a legit Game of the Year contender, and while I think Elden Ring is still pretty safe in that #1 spot, it's nice to see retro-inspired titles like this getting a look in at all. Much of its appeal comes from its nostalgia factor, harkening back to the 8, 16, and 32-bit Turtle games that were a regular feature of many a childhood, including my own. If you're keen to relive those glory days, then can I interest you in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection announced this week? This fantastic little package contains 13 retro titles from the annals of Turtles history, plus it adds new features like online play, saves, rewinds, and more. Awesome little piece of history here, and it's hitting very soon, August 30th on all platforms. Dragon Ball The Breakers is a game I didn't even know existed until I got a release date trailer this week. Weirdly, it's an asymmetric multiplayer game where you play as either humans trying to escape or a Dragon Ball villain trying to do villainous things. Not sure how that's going to work out, but hey, at least they're trying something different. It's hitting all platforms on October 14th. Video games' most successful gambling-based franchise, FIFA, is getting another one because of course it is. FIFA 2023 has just been announced and a release date confirmed, September 30th, arriving on all platforms. As always, all of your previous microtransaction purchases are now useless, and it's time to begin the money go round all over again. And as an added sweetener, those playing on Nintendo Switch are essentially just paying for a roster update, since the 2023 version contains no new game modes or features versus the 2022 edition. This isn't the first time EA's pulled this bullshit on Nintendo Switch owners, and it certainly won't be the last. While EA charges people out the arse every year for minor iterations, No Man's Sky developer Hello Games keeps pumping out game-changing free updates just as regularly. This week they announced and deployed the Endurance update, which overhauls freighters, increases base building limits, adds new, bigger asteroid fields and combat missions, and tons more stuff. All of it 100% free. As I've said before on many an occasion, the volume of free content that Hello Games puts out is absurd, and has long past the point where we start to feel guilty for all those Sean Murray dunks back in the day. This team has put in the work to recover from their famously bad launch, and today No Man's Sky is one of the most beloved space games on the market. Meanwhile, Star Citizen was announced 4 years before No Man's Sky was even released, and it's still nowhere close to a release date, and it's charging $10,000 a pop for ships, and it's spending that money on advanced bedsheet physics. My god, you cannot make this stuff up. Alright, back to Earth for a bit, sort of. Retreat to Enon is an upcoming survival game that fuses both natural and sci-fi settings. It's looking interesting, and they've just announced a release date, August 5th, exclusive to PC, but a console release is planned for sometime next year. Wavetale, not gonna lie, I hadn't heard about this one, and there's a reason for that. It was a Stadia exclusive, but with Stadia in its death throes, a number of games are being released from those exclusive agreements, and Wavetale is one of them. It's a water-based exploration game with some really nice traversal options. I suspect I'll enjoy this one, as I'm big into these flow state games. No release date for this one yet, but it has been confirmed for a Steam release. Final release announcement for the week is a big one. World of Warcraft is heading back to Northrend as the Wrath of the Lich King expansion arrives for WoW Classic on September 26th. As someone who lived and breathed WoW from its beta right up until Cataclysm, I can tell you that this was, in most aspects, peak World of Warcraft. The narrative climax of felling Arthas was one so satisfying and so meaningful that no other moment since then has come close. And this expansion marks the end of that golden age of WoW's existence. Things got complicated after that, and I do wonder where Blizzard plans to take this classic experiment next, since I don't think the idea of Cataclysm Classic holds quite the same appeal that the first 3 expansions did. God, I wish I had time to play the Wrath of the Lich King again. That would be so damn good, but it's not going to happen. Finally, 2 delay announcements this week. The first was for Star Wars Hunters. If you've forgotten this exists, I don't blame you. It's a free-to-play, third-person multiplayer hero shooter arriving exclusive to the Switch and mobile devices. It looks pretty how's it going, which is Australian slang for pretty average. It's just been pushed from a planned 2022 release date to 2023, no specific date provided yet. And finally, Golem has got a release date. This one was meant to ship sometime in September, and when we saw some gameplay recently, everyone was like, whoa, I don't know about that. And sure enough, the announcement came this week on Twitter. The developers have delayed the game for a number of months so they can polish it. They weren't specific about how many months that was, but yeah, it's definitely coming later. Having said that, I'm not sure that a few months is going to be enough to save this one. That trailer really did look very worrisome indeed. So I think we should still kind of keep our expectations in check for that one. I'll keep you posted when that new release date becomes available. So what came out last week? Well, we had As Dusk Falls, the debut title from Interior Night. I actually covered the reviews for this one last week, where critics gave it a strong 76 on OpenCritic. User scores on Steam are now in, and they're sitting at a very positive 85-ish. If you want a little more detail on this one, I really recommend the video from my good friend Jake Baldino, who reviewed the title. I'll leave a link to that video below the like button. But also, it's on Game Pass, so if you want to suck it and see, then Uncle Phil's made that very easy for you to do. The other title we covered off last week was Stray, the charming cat simulator set in a neon-drenched sci-fi world. A mighty 84% on OpenCritic and an overwhelmingly positive 97% on Steam with over 30,000 reviews in. That makes it the highest rated PC game of 2022 according to Steam 250's weighted calculation. That is insane. A little 4-hour-long game about a regular-ass cat just walking around has dethroned the sad dad masterpiece that was Game of the Year back in 2018. It's a fantastic result for this debut game from Blue 12 Studios, and another W for Annapurna Interactive, who now have 2 games in that top 10 list of 2022 owing to the success of Neon White a little whiles back. That publisher has always known what's up, and they're really hitting their stride this year. Other releases this week include Endling: Extinction is Forever, which launched on all platforms on the 19th. This is apparently very good. Steam reviews have it at a very positive 94%, and critics put it at a strong 79. Twinfinite was a big fan of this one, scoring it a 4 out of 5 and saying, quote, "Fraught, lonely, and emotionally devastating, Endling: Extinction is Forever is a powerful example of the kinds of experiences that are only possible through the medium of video games," end quote. If you're into your limbos or your journeys, then this one looks like it's going to be your jam. Alright, this next one is awesome, and it really bums me out to see that it isn't being talked about more. Forza Horizon 5's Hot Wheels DLC dropped last week. I've been playing it whenever I had a free moment, and I gotta tell you, I absolutely love it. Not only is it some sick, awesome, crazy Hot Wheels thing, but it also kind of solves one of my key issues with Forza, which is that there isn't this feeling of progression since every car unlocked is kind of unlocked at random. This Hot Wheels career has a more graduated approach, easing you into faster tiers and unlocks, and I love it. I'm up to the second to last tier now. I don't know if I'll do a video on this one because I don't know how much there is to say other than, hey, this is super cool and I love it, and I think you will too. I'm not alone in that, by the way. Critics have this at a mighty 87 on OpenCritic, which is huge. IGN's Luke Riley is their racing game specialist, and he scored an 8, saying, quote, "It isn't as surprising and novel as it was the first time around, but Forza's high-speed brand of life-size, toy-themed stunt racing is still a riotous good time," end quote. Last big release for the week was Live Alive, the classic JRPG released back in 1994, but resurrected this year by both Square Enix and Nintendo. The passage of time has been kind to this one, with critics putting it at a strong 81. Eurogamer recommended it, saying, quote, "While component tales and battles can be hit and miss, this elderly Squaresoft anthology is a wonderful testament to its genre's flexibility and range," end quote. And Game Informer really loved it, scoring it a 9 out of 10 and saying, quote, "We'll never know how Live Alive would have fared in the US back in the day. Flash forward nearly 3 decades, and I can't recommend this revitalized relic enough. It's that good. This is another must-play Switch RPG that entertains in ways I didn't expect and kept me glued to the screen for well over 20 hours," end quote. So what's coming out this week? Well, arriving in open beta is Multiverses, the Warner Brothers themed Smash-like that lets you beat the shit out of Bugs Bunny while playing as Shaggy, while both Superman and Arya Stark look on. Early impressions for this one are positive across the board, propped up by decent gameplay and an expansive roster of fully voiced characters, including a new addition, LeBron James, LeBron James, LeBron James, LeBron James. Yes, the man made famous by some random kid on the internet is now a controllable character in a cartoon brawler. It's modeled after his appearance in Space Jam, and to be honest, it looks pretty cool. I'm not a basketball dude, but even I can get behind this. Multiverses is free to play, but there are of course plenty of character cosmetics and stuff you can purchase, as well as some Founder Edition stuff for extra goodies. It's available on all platforms bar the Switch. Here's something cute, Bear and Breakfast. You can play as a bear running a bed and breakfast, hence the play on words in the title. I hadn't seen this one before it popped up in the release schedule, but I looked at some trailers and some gameplay, and yeah, it looks nice. A very rich, colourful art style and a chill, wholesome premise that I know a bunch of people will love. This one's hitting both the PC and the Switch on the 28th. Speaking of the Switch, this week sees the release of one of the biggest Switch exclusives of the year, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which launches on the 29th. I tried desperately to get my hands on a review code for this so I could review it on the embargo, because while I'm not the biggest JRPG fan these days, I genuinely love me some Xenoblade. Sadly, Nintendo told me that they don't provide review code to any outlet that does video-first content because they're worried about spoilers. I certainly will try to circle back to Xenoblade at some point as this is looking awesome. A word of warning about spoilers though, the ROM files for this one have leaked online and you can see a bunch of people playing this on their Steam decks right now. If you are sensitive to spoilers for this one, as I am, then maybe mute a few keywords on YouTube or Twitter because I've already had some stuff spoiled for me and that was a bummer. Finally, arriving on August 1st, we have something called The Gallery, which looks interesting. It's an FMV game where a curator is being held hostage by an artist who's threatening to detonate a bomb unless their demands are met, and the story plays out across two timelines, 1981 and 2021. There's some funny wigs and costumes going on here, but I'm interested in these sorts of things since I'm a sucker for stuff like Her Story and Telling Lies. The Gallery is headed to all platforms, so everyone and anyone can check it out. Put this on your radar. Typically, I like to keep Put This On Your Radar squarely focused on games that aren't yet out, but when it comes to games made by and based in my fatherland, I'm gonna let my bias make an exception. This is Dinkum, and it's a game you might have already heard about as it's sort of blowing up on Steam and Twitch. It's essentially Animal Crossing, but it's set in Australia, and you know it's just a fanciful make-believe version of Australia because nothing here is trying to kill you. Still, this is a premise that just begs to be played. The Australian landscape is its own alluring, mysterious wonderland of strange flora and fauna, so any trip there is always going to be some sort of adventure. Building your own little farm there and getting to know the locals while fishing in shark-infested waters, what's not to love about that? Dinkum is the work of a solo developer, supported by a few key people for things like music. He worked for 5 years on this thing, and it just released to overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. It's in early access, so if you'd like to get in on the ground floor, I'll leave a link to it in my Steam Curator page, which also has links to all of the Put This On Your Radar stuff I've mentioned in the past. You'll find that link below the like button. Sort of free stuff time now, and the first thing I'll say is that this is the last week of the month, which means it's time to grab all those PS Plus games, Games with Gold, and Twitch Prime offerings before they disappear. If you've already done all that and you're looking for some new hotness, then sadly all I've got to offer you is the Epic Games lineup, but fear not, because this week, Lawnmower Simulator is in the house. Not 2 weeks ago, I would have waved this away with a dismissive Forrest Gump reference. The Power Wash Simulator has changed me. I've seen the light, and now I'm all in on chilled out, mindless experiences that allow me to power down my brain, and dopamine is slowly released through the sweet thrill of virtual chores. Hell yeah. Would I ever mow a lawn in real life? Hell no. But I will definitely be downloading this on the EGS and firing it up at some point. You can bet your bottom dollar on that, which funnily enough is more than the cost of this because Tim Sweeney is giving it away for free on the 29th. Before that, you can still get some sort of free stuff for Shop Titans, as well as World War I shooter Tannenberg. We're running a bit long this week, and I'm still feeling pretty damn good from that Minecraft NFT dunk, so let's make this week's feel-good story of the week a quick one, and focus on the video game du jour, Stray. Certainly one of the biggest frustrations that cat people have with Stray is that there isn't a cat creation tool, allowing you to recreate your own cat and make them playable in the game. Luckily, modders have stepped in to fill the gap, with a bunch of options already out there allowing you to import your catvatar so long as you have the know-how. But why stop at modding in your own cat when you can instead mod the Stray cat to actually be CJ from Grand Theft Auto San Andreas? This is truly cursed. The modding isn't just about replacing the stray cat in Stray, it's also about putting the stray cat into other video games, like, I don't know, Doom. My personal favorite though, a mode that replaces the meow button with the Jason button. It's mainly because I never get tired of press X to Jason memes, and I never will. Jason!
Jason!
Jason! Jason! Jason! Jason!
Jason!
Ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize that this episode was a little late this week, but I had some stuff going on, so I appreciate your patience. We'll get back to our regular timetable next week as we settle into what will be a sort of quiet but still pleasant August. Spider-Man PC, Cult of the Lamb, Rollerdrome, Saints Row, these are all on my review schedule, which may be a little tricky alongside putting 100 plus hours into Xenoblade 3, but we'll see what we can do. I want to thank you for stopping by today. If you enjoyed yourself, then you know what to do. Like button, subscribe button, notification ding, and a comment down below if you're feeling particularly generous. Love you and leave you. Chill up out. I'm continuing my Warhammer 40k audiobook journey. Some of you might recall that I listened to the entirety of First and Only while reviewing Power Wash Simulator, and I've now moved on to book 2, Ghostmaker. The thought of 16 books in the series is a little intimidating, not gonna lie, but we'll see how far we get. I listen to audiobooks a variety of ways, but when I'm out and about, I'm always listening to them through my trusty Recon wireless earbuds. I've been using Recons for over 2 years now, and I've always loved them. They've always felt super comfortable, sounded great, and had awesome battery life. I really never leave home without them at this point. For real, they're just a part of my routine now. Pretty crazy for a set of earbuds that are half the price of pretty much every other set of earbuds on the market. Recon's newest models, the everyday earbuds, are their best ones yet, with 32 hours of battery life, a built-in microphone for calls, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, 5 different color options, and a range of custom gel tips for both comfort and to ensure a nice noise isolating fit so they won't fall out of your ear. Recons also have touch control support, allowing you to do stuff like change volume levels, skip songs, or answer calls easily, and they're sweat and water resistant, meaning they're perfect for high intensity workouts or if you ever find yourself stuck out in the rain. I'm not the only one who loves Recons, by the way. They have over 50,000 5-star reviews, and best of all, Recons come with free shipping and a 30-day return policy, so you don't have to take my word for it. Just try them for yourself, and if you aren't happy, you can get your money back easy. To get 15% off your order, visit buyrecon.com/skillup or just click the link in the description below. Thanks Recon for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.